Continue to exhibit great public service, and you and I have had the privilege of working together for many years now, since I was a freshman member of the House and you were a member of the Clinton administration. We don't need to talk about how many years that's been, but I respect your service and value our friendship. And I would just say that I know you will be the first to credit the many hardworking and very professional men and women in the intelligence and military community that led to the successful takedown of bin Laden, and you'd be right to do that. But the fact is, without strong leadership at the top, that mission would not have been successful, and I give a lot of the credit for that mission to you, and it's well-deserved. You and I had the opportunity to talk about the issue of rising health care costs in the Department of Defense budget when we visited a couple of weeks ago. And I noticed you had several questions on that issue in your advanced policy questions, and I appreciate your responses. I don't have a question on this, but as the chairman said earlier, you're going to have a very difficult job when it comes to trying to find savings and become more efficient at the Department of Defense. And there is no bigger expense, at least from the standpoint of increasing annually, than the health care costs. So I just want to reemphasize the fact that this is an extremely important issue and we need to get our arms around it, and I look forward to working with you. I encourage you to continue to think creatively about how we can bring these costs down without negatively impacting the quality of those service to those who depend on that system. I want to go back to the line that Senator McKean was addressing on Afghanistan. And regarding the troop withdrawals, I think it's clear from any operational perspective that withdrawal of U.S. troops at this point makes no sense. It may make sense from a domestic political perspective. It may make some level of sense in terms of waking up the Afghans to the fact that we're not going to be there forever and they need to step up to the plate. But I am concerned that a significant withdrawal of U.S. forces will reverse the progress that we've made in Afghanistan and that the Afghans have made. I'm glad to see you say in your responses to questions that you, quote, support a responsible, conditions-based withdrawal, close quote. However, I would prefer there to be no withdrawal until it is clear that the gains that we've made will not be reversed. My question for you is, as we withdraw troops from Afghanistan, if it becomes clear from an operational perspective that the withdrawal is negatively affecting progress and stability, will you advise the President that the withdrawal should be stopped and that, if necessary, additional U.S. forces be sent back to Afghanistan?
As I've said and as the President has said and the Secretary have emphasized, this has to be a conditions-based withdrawal. And that means you look at the conditions on the ground as it proceeds. And I mean, obviously we need to do everything we can to try to stay hopefully on target with regards to the 2014 date. But again, it is conditions-based, and I think based on what changes take place, then obviously the President and the Secretary would have to make adjustments.
Well, I would hope that from a conditions-based standpoint, Leon, that you would give strong consideration to the safety and security of our soldiers. I know they are of number one importance to you, and if withdrawal of troops puts our men and women in greater harm's way, I hope that we would make it conditions-based and that we would cease the withdrawal. And I hope that would be your recommendation to the President.
Yes.
Another issue that I want to bring up with you that we have discussed is the issue of tactical aircraft and fifth-generation fighters. Let me just say that several years ago, Secretary Gates made a push to place the future of tactical aviation on basically one weapon system, and that's the F-35. He argued that it had stealth and other advanced capabilities that made it the airplane of the future. However, at a recent hearing last month, Secretary Carter indicated, in fact, that DOD has taken money out of the F-35 program to buy fourth-generation fighters. Not only are these fourth-generation fighters costing billions of dollars, but they're going to be in the inventory for probably 20 to 30 years, and we're going to be paying to maintain them, even at a greater cost. Yet their utility is greatly limited against any kind of modern threat. And in my view, this does not seem to be a very good way to expend taxpayer dollars. What's your perspective on this issue, and if confirmed, will you absolutely be committed to preserving U.S. supremacy and air dominance and ensuring our resources are spent most wisely towards that end?
Senator, obviously, I want to make sure that that we have the very best in terms of our fighter planes, and I know the F-35 is a plane that's being developed as the next generation fighter, but I also know that there are extensive costs associated with how that plane is being developed, and I think we have to watch it very carefully. I want to assure you that one of my responsibilities, in line with what Senator McCain said, is to take a very hard look at all weapon systems to make sure that they are cost effective and that they are, in the end, providing the very best equipment our forces need.
Well, what really concerns me about where we are with that program is exactly what Senator McCain alluded to, and that is that we just seem to be out of control, and that we keep moving the goalposts with contractors and then blaming contractors for an increase in costs when, frankly, part of it's due to our inefficient management of the systems. And if we're going to spend the kind of money that we're committed to spend on that fifth-generation fighter, because it is, I mean, that's where we're headed, and we all know that. And we've got to have that airplane in the inventory. The decisions that are going to be made by you as Secretary of Defense relative to procurement, to acquisition, as well as to the testing of that airplane are going to be critical. And you bring a wealth of knowledge from that perspective from your years at OMB as well as where you are today. So again, we look forward to dialoguing with you between you and this committee on that issue as well as our other acquisition issues that are going to be before you. Let me ask you one other matter relative to Libya. Yeah, I notice that you agree that the Gaddafi regime must go. How are we going to do it? Based on what we are doing today from our participation in the NATO operation, how are we going to make that happen?
Well, that is, as the President has said, the objective. And it has to be done by a number of means. Number one, we are bringing strong economic sanctions against them. Number two, we're bringing strong diplomatic pressure against them. We have implemented embargoes, and more importantly, the work that NATO is doing pursuant to the UN resolution and the NATO forces that are there are bringing tremendous pressure, I believe, on them, not only fighting, obviously, to protect civilians, but to implement the no-fly zone, but to, in addition to that, target the command and control elements of the regime. I think all of those factors have to continue in order to put pressure on Gaddafi. Frankly, I think there are gains that have been made. We have seen the regime weaken significantly. We have seen the opposition make gains both in the East and the West. I think there are some signs that if we continue the pressure, if we stick with it, that ultimately Gaddafi will step down.
Well, again, thanks for your service, and I look forward to continuing to work with you.
Thank you very much, Senator Chambliss. Senator Reed.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Director, for your extraordinary